the actions called debounce. Debounce and we call throttle. Some example also we will see how to manage. Actually, the concept of using these events is make sure that the events will not immediately execute, or you can define events in such a way that they can control the task in the memory, because every action will be immediately triggered on that particular event. We have to delay, lock these actions. Otherwise, lot of double posting like actions will perform. So for that, we learned how to use set timeout. We learned how to use clear timeout, and we discussed about use ref. Use reference is an hook. So what is the purpose of this hook? Use reference hook is used to maintain a value, so that the value is used within the process, but it is not meant for rendering. So to use any reference for only internal process for storing various kind of content, you can use this use reference. Technically, what use reference will do, it will configure a thread. On that thread, you can perform any task. These threads will be used internally to host some functionality and use across the application. So we discussed that if you store any value in a state, it is meant for rendering. But if you store in a reference, it is not meant for rendering. It is for configuring the values and use them internally. So last session we designed one example of timeout, for which purpose we use a timeout for controlling the bounce. What is bounce and how you can debounce? Bounce is the tasks will execute from memory immediately, one after another. What is debounce? You can lock the task and keep it inactive for a specific duration of time, and you can release the task from the memory after the time. Before it is released, you can even cancel. For that, we designed this. In this example, what we learned, how we can manage the actions and define. But this is actually timeout. And in JavaScript, you learned how timeout works. You have task 1, task 2. These two tasks are loaded into memory. From the memory, these two are loaded into memory. From the memory, they are sent into process. From the memory, they are sent into the process. And how they are sent into the process? From the memory, the task 1 is removed and it is sent into the process. After executing in the process, it comes out of the process. Now, how many times the task is going to execute? Only once. How to remove from the memory? Already it is removed from the memory. Once you release into process, it is removed from the memory. If you want again, then again the task must be loaded into memory. But I want the task in the memory to release into process, but not deleted from memory, so that it can release into process every few seconds, means at regular intervals. Then this is called as set interval. We do that by using set interval. Set timeout will remove from memory and it will send into process. Set interval, it will keep it in the memory and release into process. That means it releases a copy into process. That means what is difference between timeout and interval? Timeout executes the task only once, and interval will repeat the task every few seconds, every few minutes, seconds at regular time intervals. That's what you learnt in JavaScript. The same work here, this set interval will do. What is the concept of set interval? So it loads task into memory and releases a copy of task into process. Copy of task into process. It repeats the task at specific time intervals until removed from memory. It repeats the task at specific time intervals until removed from memory. So that is set interval. So now what is the purpose of this is you have syntactically same set interval and it uses a function and interval. So these will be very helpful in implementing different functionalities later. And you can remove from memory using clear interval. So syntax, we have like a clear interval and a reference name. So usually here we are displaying some values. For example, what you saw in our previous example, here the message 1, 2, 3 messages are there. These 3 messages are loaded into memory and they are removed from the memory. After 3 seconds, it is released into, first one is released into process, second one 6, third one 10. That means now what happens is they are going to execute only once. I click on play, then in 3 seconds the first message will be released. It is deleted now. After that second, it is deleted. Then third, it is deleted. Now I want first again. Then again I have to load it into memory. That means when I click on play, what will happen? Again, it should load into memory and it will display. Automatically they are not repeating. Again on play click only, it is repeating. Automatically those 3 actions are not repeating. After third, it is stop. So, but it should repeat automatically until I stop. That means then you have to manage that by using intervals. So let's see one action here. So we will add another component. Let's say interval demo. So we have interval demo.jsx. So export function interval demo. So first I will show you a basic process how it works. Actually, we are defining some containers. Fluid, okay. Initially, we are designing the containers like this is a button container, right? This we have a button. So load image. First, I will keep some basic message so that you can understand. I will create a constant, some time, set time is equal to use state and here new date. You know it is going to load the current date, right? How you store dates in memory, you know, in JavaScript we use a date constructor. It is of what type? It is of date and time type. We can store date and time values in memory using this. You know various data types, how date functions work. You learned all the date functions, right? I already showed you in data types, data binding different data types. Now, what we will do, we will create a function timer. This timer function is going to get the time. So set time, and here we have to give time dot some to local time string. We'll use to local time string like this we are using. That means it is going to access the time and display the time. Here we will put a simple time reference and we have a use effect. That means at the time of mounting, we will call that at the time of mounting, we will call that function called what? Timer. We will call that timer. That means at the time of mounting, we are calling the timer, it will set the time. So we will put interval demo. Okay. Actually, the concept here is we need to access the time and display the time. So it is generally objects are not valid as React child. Objects are not valid as React child. This is nothing but related to displaying the time. Actually, what we are doing into this, we will declare another one. Means this is just time. We are using a constant message set message is equal to use state, and it is empty, and message is equal to, so in set message is equal to, into that we are passing the time. Usually we will display the message. So what it is going to do is some problem. Acha. React child is expecting. Fine. So it is already allocating memory. Yeah? So we don't need again memory. We are just using date. So this is displaying the current date and time. We will use time dot to this is a string type actually. That's a string type. It is just the message we are displaying. Okay. Actually, this is the time we are having. In this, we can display date, time, anything you want. But the time is not ticking. The time is not ticking. It's not ticking. It stopped at few seconds. When I reload this page again, then what happens? It is going to change the time. That means whenever the page reloads at that time, what is the time it will collect and display. So usually this time is executing only once. But what we want to do, repeat it every second. If I give this work to timeout, what will happen? If I give to set timeout, set time out, and I give this timer function to it at 1000 milliseconds, what will happen? After 1000 milliseconds, it will release into process. After that, it will delete it. That means now it is going to execute only once. We want to repeat it. We want to repeat it again and again. This function should repeat until it is removed from memory. Then timeout is not the correct option for that. Then what we have to define by using what set interval. What set interval will do? It will execute the timer every 1 second. So it will not be removed from the memory until it is manually cleared using clear timeout. Let's put this in a complete example and see. We will design something like a slideshow. For example, you see some Amazon have a carousel. Now what happens here? These images are changing every few seconds. Every few seconds, the image is going to change. How it is happening? So every few seconds, how it is changing the image. And they are repeating. these images are repeating. You can even control them manually. By using the buttons, we can even control them manually. Let's see how we can do. Means every few seconds they should change, and we can able to control manually also. Then we will design an example for this. You don't need all this, because now we are going to use a simple interface. I will keep as some card padding 2, okay, and W50, fine, and margin top 4, okay. So deflex, justify content center, and here we will create a simple card header, okay, and we have a div. In this we have a class that is card body, and we have image. This image, so width is some 100% and height is some 300, okay. Now this is the image and the card we are having. Now below this we will keep some elements. Class name as card footer, and we have a button, btn some primary, bi play, okay, and we have another button. So this is warning, and bi pause, and these are at the bottom. So this is danger and text center, okay. Now we want to control this here, margin E2, okay, some gap. Now this is nothing but when I click on the play button, it should start changing the photos, and on pause it should stop. We want manual control also. Then if you want manual control, then we will create a div, class name as row, and the div, this class name as call1, and div, this has class name as call10 with some image, and again, so the class name as call1, okay. Now what we will do is, here we have a button, so class bi chevron left, that's the button we are having. btn is the class, that's just arrow is there, and we will have similar button here. This is chevron right, okay, right. Now we have these two buttons. Please, your wish, you can define anywhere. What we do for this is, for this clause, flex column, align items center, okay, that is align items center, and justify content center. Just roughly I kept it center. The same I will apply for these also. Let me copy and keep it here. Okay. So we have this in the center, horizontally and vertically center. It's not working for it. For button I given a, yeah, I have to give it for the column. Okay. Now we have these buttons here. On this button click, manually they should change. On this click, automatically they should function. So we need to control some images. We will take images from fake store. Some from fake store products. We will access the products data and display here. So let's do another one. So we are using a function that is load product. Okay. This load product is expecting a product ID. This product ID is going to change the products and it is going to display those products. So this load product is expecting an ID. We need to access the ID and change. Now here, what load product have to do? It should load the products from fake store. So we will use Axios get from https fakestoreapi.com products / the ID that they pass. So that is the ID. From that ID, the value is coming, whatever ID is passed into it. Now, dot then, if it is successful, then we will call a response. And what this response have to do? The data must be displayed in some product. So what we will do? We will create a simple state for storing the product data. So we have a set product, use state, and we are expecting an object. And what we need to do? Set product and response dot data. Okay, load product is going to load one product. Now what we will do here? So we will configure on use effect. We are accessing that particular function. What is the function? Load product function. Into that we will pass an ID. This ID should be changing according to the situation. So we will use a constant. We will use here LET product ID. Product ID is equal to use reference, and reference have a one value. That means our intention of using this reference is to store some ID, and this ID will not be used anywhere in rendering. It will be used just in internal process. So now hereafter, any value you want to store and use for rendering, you use a state. Any value you want to use for its internal purpose, then use an reference. Now what we have to do? We have to access the product ID dot what? Current. Current will return the value 1. That means whenever the load happens, by default one product have to come, and it should display the product and show the product here. Now what is the issue here? So inspect, So the data we have to display in this area. So what we will do, currently we are not displaying any data. Okay, so where to display the data? Here I want to display in the card header, I want to display that product related title. So text center, product title must display at the top. It is showing the title at the top. Then let me clean, yeah, and we need the product image below. So the image source src is coming from product dot what image. The product image will come here. Now on this button click, it should change to second. So that means the product id must be changed to second. Product id is a reference, we declared a value through use reference. So what we need to do here, so write a function, and the function is, so this is next click. On next click, so product id dot current is equal to product id dot current plus 1. That means we are incrementing by 1, and we will send this into what, load product. Into load product, the product id we are sending dot current. The current value of product will be incremented here. So similarly we have another function. What is it? The previous click, the previous click, it should decrease by 1. Now on the button clicks, on this click, on click, it should handle previous click. On the second button, on click, it should handle next click. That's the functionality we define. Now when user clicks on the next, then the next image will come. So user can browse the images, and on previous, the previous will come. That means we are displaying some values in a reference. We are storing values in a reference and we are using it. Now when user clicks on this button, it should start automatically changing photos. Automatically every few seconds the photos must change, right? Then how we can manage that, how they can change automatically every few seconds? So what this function is doing is, it is changing the product id and displaying that particular product id related details. Actually these two functions, set interval and set timeout, these are not calling a function. They are not calling a function, they are pointing towards the function. These are function pointers, they are not calling the function. So now here load product, whenever you call, you need to pass an id, and which is not possible now if you give it to timeouts, because timeout and interval are not function calling, they are function pointers. Then when they point the function, this id should automatically keep changing. Currently we designed in such a way that it is manually changing. So we will write another function here. The logic will be similar. We will write another function. So load product auto. This function will use the same, but this id is not the ID that we have to manually pass, this will be collected from memory. In the memory, already ID is decided by buttons. Next button, previous button, they have ID. That means currently I am in the third image. When I click play, from this it should start. It should not start from first. That means now this memory you have to collect. Where this memory is kept? In a reference. This memory is kept in a reference by the reference called product ID. Product ID is the reference. So what we will do now here, we will use the product ID dot what current, and auto what it will do is product ID dot current, it will increment its value. That means automatically it will increment by 1. Already what is there in the memory to that, it is increasing 1 and it is sending that into these products. So this time what happens, this load product should execute every few seconds. Every few seconds, whatever ID is already present to that ID, it should add 1 and it should go to the next. Now see, I am using a simple increment option here, right? Okay, now when this load product auto should work, that load product auto should work when user clicks on play. On play click, what should happen? Load product auto should fire up. But it will fire up only once. It should fire up every few seconds. Then we will give this work to whom? Set interval. Set interval. And set interval, which one? Load product auto. How many? Every 5000 milliseconds. That means every 5000 milliseconds, it is going to load this into memory. And what happens when it loads into memory? The ID will be incremented by 1 and it will be assigned to this. It will be incremented and assigned. Now, this play click should work when user clicks on play. That means on click, we will use what? Play click. And so I will put a status message here. Constant status and set status is equal to use state. This is a string and we will display the status message in the header. Here we will put in a break, we will put a status message here. Status is nothing but what happens is when play click, we will keep set status as so slide show started. That is the message we want to display. But remember, this task is loaded into memory and it is released every 5 seconds. We cannot cancel it from memory because we don't know at which memory it is there. Then how do we cancel it? So we are not sure at which memory it is running, then we cannot cancel it. Then how do we cancel it? In order to cancel it, you need to create another reference, another flag, and this flag is a use reference. I am suppose using thread, okay, and what it is using? Use reference. And what is the default value? Default value is what? Null. And what this thread have to do is it should handle this task. That means what we will do? Thread dot what? Thread dot current is equal to this value. What is the advantage of loading this into a thread? So that we can kill the thread anytime. Until the thread is open, then it is going to execute again and again. If you want to kill the thread, how to kill the thread? We have to use a function. Function what? Pause click. On pause click, we need to stop that. Then what we have to do on pause click? Clear interval. Clear interval thread dot what? Current. In that this function is loaded, that will be cancelled. And pause click should fire up when user clicks on pause button. On click is what? Pause click. On pause click, we will put status also here. That means we will set status on pause click as slide show paused. That message should come. Now what happens here? We are clicking on this. That is the second slide. We are clicking on this third one. From here, I want automatic slideshow. Then what we have to do? Click on play. On play click, slideshow started. And every few seconds, the image is going to change. Every few seconds, the image is going to change. Now, important, we want to stop at any particular place. Then if you want to pause, then click on pause, slideshow pause. Currently, you are not applying any animation. You can apply animation for those images like fade in, fade out, like slide in, slide out. For that, you know what to do. CSS keyframes. You can create CSS keyframes. You can apply the keyframes. It is now paused. Observe carefully. It is paused. And when I click on previous, then it will go to the previous here. From there, previous. And from there, previous. It will go into that previous. And again, I click on slideshow. Then what will happen? It is going to start from here. Why they are linked with each other? Because in the background, they are using a reference of what product ID. This product ID is used for automatically changing. That means it is used by these buttons and it is used by these autos. That is the reason both are connected. So that means where you go, then click on play, slideshow started. Then it will change from that location and it will start changing the values. From that place, it will start. It is showing the values. So you click on pause, then it will be paused. So you click on pause, it is paused. And again you click back and click on play, again it started. That means again it will come and display the next image we have. This is automatically controlling the contents here. We have both options. This is manual and this is auto. This is what actually you saw in Carousel, how they design. Carousel have automatic, Carousel have manual, that you can manage by using this approach. So how you can configure tasks so that they can automatically execute, manually execute? So by using this interval and timeout. Why timeout is not good for this? Because timeout will load the task, execute the task and delete it from memory. We need to keep repeating it until it is stopped or until it reaches specific condition. In that case, then you have to use set intervals, set interval. Later, in many occasions, these are used, right? That means any task working in the background, it have to use these options. For example, Another example I will keep. Later in hooks you will learn one. I will show you. Interval dot interval demo dot JSX. Okay. So later we will see some hooks newly added. Actually, if you need such functionality, then you can create separate hooks and you can manage the hooks. I will show you how we can create and manage the hooks. In hooks concept we will learn. Now here let's go into another part. Suppose, means another example we will see, so that you will just get an idea in different places where we use. For example, when any task is performed, when any particular task is being performed, you know, the status of task is shown. Status of task means 5% completed, 10% completed, 20% completed. Like that, we can show the status of any task. Let's see how we can design such. But really, we have to link with the threads and use them. We'll see. First, we will understand the interval here. See. Another example we will see. Another component here I am adding. Progress demo. Okay. Progress demo.jsx. Yeah. So export function progress demo and return a simple container. Okay, we have some images in our public folder. We have some images M1, M2, M3, JPG. Okay, so here we have deflex, container fluid, and flex justify, content center, align items center, and a style. So height as some, so 100 VH. Okay, and here we will keep a div with a button. So load image. Progress demo is in the startup. We have progress demo. It is in the startup. And this is in the startup. When user clicks on this button, BTN primary. When user clicks on this load image button, it should show status. 5% loaded, 10% loaded, 15% loaded. We want to show the status. After it reaches 100%, it should display the image. So we will create another div, and this div have an progress bar. You know, you have a progress bar. This is the progress bar we are having. So that is the progress bar we are having, some style. So we will keep width for this progress bar as 300 pixel and height as some 30 pixel. Okay, this is the progress bar we are having. Now what we will do here is, for this progress bar, we will just keep the display. We'll keep here display as none. So we are not showing it. We are not showing it. Or we can apply through class also. No? We'll do that. So what we will do, dynamically we will apply the class. But that is for this container we will apply dynamically. Okay. Another option is here. We have image source. So this is m1.jpg. So width is 300, height as 400. There is an image also here. We have an image. Now what we need to do is we will put a state, that is display state, display container, display, or say set display. So what we will do, use state, by default it is d none. Display is d none. It is having d none. This container have a class, and class is display. This container also have a class. This also dynamically display. D none is nothing but it is going to hide them. Now what should happen is, when user clicks load image, it should first show this container, and this container should show the progress until 100, from starting 1 to 100. So what is the progress value? Min start with 1, max end with 100, value starts with 1. This value will be changing dynamically. The value of progress will be changing dynamically. Okay, how we can do that? So that means we need to change the value dynamically. So we are creating a constant, and the value should be changing dynamically, and the same value should be displayed also. It should be changing dynamically and it should be displayed, because we want to see how much completed. Then we will not create a reference, we will create a state, because state is to display the value. So we will create a count, and the set count is equal to use state. It will start with 1. Count will start with 1. Now what should happen on load click? So function load click. On load click, we will increment the count. We will increment the count. Now here some issues are there. Suppose how you will increment the count. Suppose I given set count is equal to count plus plus. What will happen? Count value will be incremented by 1, and it will be stored inside this count. Increment by 1 and store in that. Okay. Now what we need to do is, this count should be used in the progress bar. It should be used in the progress bar, right? So this progress bar have a value. The value is coming from where? Count. It is coming from count. And this progress bar must display. But actually this display is going to set display for all of them. We'll do one thing. This display is for progress display. Progress display. This is set what? Progress display. Okay, first we will set progress display. Here we are using progress display. Progress display. This class name is which one we will give for this? Image display. Okay. So we will keep another one, different one. This is image display. Set image display. Okay, they should work in a different situation. So what should happen? Set progress display should be D block. That means it will be display block. On load click, another option is there. So we need to hide this button display also. So constant, so button display, set button display. You can do one thing, you can create one object. In that object you can put 3 values, right? And you can implement. Just for clarity's sake, I will give this one D block. And button display should be for this container. What it is? Button display. Button display is there. Now on load click, button display, set button display should be D none. That's what we want to do. And you can see on load click, on click, on click is what? Load click. On load click, so we have to display that image display spelling D uppercase. Okay, fine, fine. So only display not found, where we are using only display. Somewhere progress display na D. D, what we given here, progress display, it is set. Now when you click on this, what will happen? When I click on this, then the assignment to a constant variable is not allowed. Assignment to a constant variable is not allowed. Where is that assignment happening? Here assignment is happening. So count plus plus is having an issue. That is having an issue. So we will do one thing, because it is declared as what? State na. So let's keep count is how much? One count plus plus. But here this is working fine. Now what should happen is, this should increase every second. How? That means on load click, this count should be increased by every second. So how you can make this increase by every second? And not only that, how much it is I want to display the value. How you can make this increase every second? That means you need to configure a function. What is the function name? Suppose progress is the function. What this progress function have to do? This should increase the count value by 1. It should increase the count value by 1. Okay. And on load click, what we are doing? We are giving set interval. Set interval is what? Progress. And here we are using some 200 milliseconds. 200 milliseconds. That means, so here on click, on load click, it should increase every 200 milliseconds. But it is unable to increase every 200 milliseconds. Now, can you tell me why? and how we solve this. Our logic is same. There is no change in the logic. But one problem is there because we are using a variable. Variables are immutable. Then how you configure this count? Every time it will be initialized by 1. Already it is happening now. On this click, it is incrementing by 1 and it is showing. Is timer not executing? Timer is executing. Timer is executing. It is performing the task. Timer is executing. Then how you will solve this? That means this is what tells how much you understand the state and memory and constants. In previous we done that. Just in previous example we done it. Incremented by 1. In previous example we done the same. I am repeating here. Just we are applying. Previously product ID we done. Yeah. So here, do you want me to use reference? That means, do you want me to use reference? Use reference. That means instead of this count defined with this, you want me to use reference, and the value is how much? 1. And what should happen? Count dot current plus plus we are using, and obviously that is a reference here. The value will come from count dot what? Current we are defining, and when it is coming from that, now on load click, you can see it is still not changing. The load current value is not incrementing. I'm using reference. The progress is going to execute. What do you say? Anything else? You see our previous example, at least what we done on play click, use reference and auto, it is incremented by 1, and we are using it for a thread. On click of play, so it is executing. Every few seconds it is executing the task. Same thing we are doing here also. And why this progress is not incrementing every few seconds? Anything else? We don't need any use effect here. We are just using load click. The value of progress should change every few seconds. And the value of progress is coming from a reference. Okay. So tell me, if I have to do with state, what I can do instead of count. So we will configure a state constant count, and what it is, set count, and is equal to, so use state, count will start with how much? 1. And here we are using count plus plus, incrementing the count by 1. And that count we will use here, the count value incremented by 1. We are configuring it. Now what happens here? Load image, you see, so many times executing, but constant you cannot assign, because this is an assignment syntax. This is an assignment syntax. So what we will do, set counter, set count into that, how you will increase the value by 1 and store into it. Set count is to initialize. How you will initialize? Count plus plus. But here again, constant initialization is happening. Constant is assigning. So how do you increment the value of this particular state and use it? Because it is a state. So suppose you are defining another reference. Another reference is what? I is equal to, suppose, 1, and I am using I plus plus. The value of I am storing into this. Now you are initializing. Now you are initializing, then it will be do. What is the concept of state? It will not allow to assign, because it is constant. Always what you have to do, you have to initialize. And count plus plus, all these things you cannot implement on them. Why we cannot use reference? Previously we used use reference. Why we cannot use reference? It is used in rendering now. Where you are rendering the value, you are rendering in progress bar. Reference is not meant for rendering. Reference is meant for using in the background. Previously, where we used not for rendering with any element, previously we used for using internal. So what is difference between reference and this? And now the count value can be shown here. That means we can display here. So a paragraph, that means here we can display. So count, so percent completed. That's the message we are giving. Now when user clicks on this, and how much percent completed, it will show. Now, after it reaching 100, after it reaches 100, it should load this image. After reaching that, it should load this image. Right? How you can do that? So, class name, text center, something like this. It should load that. That means here in the load click, we have to access the progress, which is displaying this one. And here we will put what if I is equal to how much? 100. If I is reaching to 100, that means what should happen? If I value is 100, then we will do one thing. What we have to do? We need to set image display as what? D block, and set loading display, set progress display. Am I right? Progress display as what? D none. We are doing this. We can do lot of other functionalities also. We can configure a lot of other functionalities also. Now I click on this, and when it reaches, the speed depends on how much interval you are defining, how much interval you are configuring. That means when it reaches 100, then it should hide the container and it should display the image container. That's the basic approach we need to follow. So this depends on how much time interval you define here. So suppose I give an 100, and when I click load, it will be fast. Later, now you do one thing. You just put a pause and play buttons here, and you implement them. So that means what pause button should do? It should pause the download. And what play button should do? Again, resume the download. That means you add two buttons in the progress below, pause and play, so that you can control. Actually, to handle these kind of tasks, this we manually design. They have given some ready-made components for them. React people, because this is a common thing in web development. In every status, we have to show that how much percent completed, how much percent they need to wait. That's the reason loading related so many components are ready-made available in React. Developers implement them and developers use those components so that it is very easy to implement these kind of functions. Actually, it requires timers. We need to maintain and manage by using timers. But loading related, so many such built-in hooks are there. We can use them. Later in other example, I will show you that. So initially you learned why and where correctly we have to use a state. When you are using for rendering, then this reference is not good. If you are using internally, then the reference is good. Here you can use reference for pause and play like functionalities if you want to implement. Okay, that you can try, right? This is an example. This is progress demo.jsx. This is the progress demo.jsx. I hope you are clear. Now, once you know all these timer related functions, means how do we control these timer functions? Then now we need to understand another concept, that is component properties. And we need to know about hooks. What are various important hooks available and what are component properties? How to use these component properties? That we'll see next session. Tomorrow we'll do that. So in tomorrow's session, we will learn what are component properties and how to design. Component properties are nothing but we can create reusable, customizable components. All these days we used components, but we cannot customize. For example, we designed a registration form. We can use in any another place, just like Netflix we designed. But that registration form must be customizable. They can use a registration form in another place, but not in the same way. They can change it with some uh, elements, some functionalities. A component should be reusable and customizable. That is possible by using what? Component properties. That we'll see in next session, right? So tomorrow we will discuss about these two things, right? Yes. What is your doubt, Sanjana?
They're not able to install the React app.
What issue is coming? Can you share your screen?
Yeah.
You have security issue.
Security issue.
Uh, that means some antivirus is running and it is unable to install. What is problem is antivirus is blocking installations in your machine. You have to disable your antivirus if any antivirus is running, or try creating this in some another folder. D drive, E drive. Do you have any another folder?
Yeah, I have D drive, sir. I tried creating in that, but there's not. Same errors are coming in that
Same
also.
error means roaming errors are related to security issues. You one more time disable this antivirus in your device and you reinstall the Node.js. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sir, one more thing is the API is not working in my code.
If this is not working, how you tried API?
API, this is from JavaScript.
JavaScript.
Yeah.
Show me. Yeah, share your that example which API is not working.
This fake store API.
Show me that. We have to see now. On your screen, show me what is not working. Where you
Here
read,
it is
where
supposed to load the products, no sir, that is not working. The link.
we can't see your screen. Can you share your
Is it
screen?
visible now?
You don't copy and paste my code from Google Classroom.
I wrote, sir.
If you wrote, then ampersand QOT will not come beside categories. Understood? You written load categories na function.
Yeah. Yeah.
There after categories, what is the ampersand QOT?
This one.
Do you know that will come when you copy and paste my code? Understood?
Yeah.
Is fake story having that path ampersand? What is QOT? What is that QOT? Ampersand QOT, what is it? Is there any such path in that particular API, fake store API?
No.
Then why you are writing it?
This is the code I wrote.
That is the code you wrote. That you have to show, not my copied paste code, right?
Yeah. But it is showing the same errors. So the code I wrote and the code
you
copy
wrote,
pasted.
show me, and I will correct it. Don't
This
copy
one.
paste my code and show me. Okay.
This is the code I wrote.
If you could written this code, run this and show me what error is coming. We can't see your browser output. See, body load is not defined in line number 113. Can you go there?